Thank you, Senator Kane. Senator Cramer, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, General Alvin. Congratulations to you and your family. It's nice to meet Gina. This first opportunity I've had to meet a family member, but I'm going to take your word when you say they're your quotes. Amazing, incredible, wonderful. I'd just hang on to that part of the record, Gina, for a long time. Very good, very well said. I'm going to take some issue with what, or at least seek some clarification regarding your discussion with the chairman on the future of ISR and the transition, as you called it. You talked about maintaining readiness and keeping ready, and that you have this plan for a transition. And yet, I pulled out this week the three most recent budget overviews, and I see in fiscal year 22 under strategic context listed as one of the 5+1 missions of the Air Force is continue intelligence, surveillance, and reconnaissance. Fiscal year 23, strategic context, Air Force core missions. Number 5, intelligence, surveillance, and reconnaissance. And then I look at the 2024 budget overview, and there's no mention of ISR anywhere. Not a transition. There's a lot of other things, and the operational imperative has a lot of impressive aircraft. Am I reading something wrong? General, is the Air Force trying to get out of the ISR business altogether to like this year?
Senator, absolutely not. If there's anything, that would have been a sin of omission. I would say that as we look at the ISR of the future, we're trying to transition to something that is platform-centric to something that is system-centric. Because if we focus on ISR as we have in the past, sometimes those platforms are a little bit more vulnerable rather than how they can approach the system. But this transition will be one where we have to and we've had conversations on this about make sure that we maintain, to the extent that we can, the capabilities throughout this transition as we leverage what we think can be more persistent, accessible, survivable, and connected. And that's why we're looking to leverage more with our Space Force partners as the entire Joint Force is becoming more and more reliant on not only the airborne layer, but the spaceborne layer of ISR as well.
So I've had a number of Space Force officials like yourself sitting where you're sitting, and they're pretty clear that the transition's a ways off before they can take it and run with it as the exclusive platform. The transition has to involve something other than keeping the last 9 RQ-4s flying, which at this point 2 or 3 I think are capable of flying. Is there a transition in place for new aircraft?
Well, Senator, there is the idea of being able to leverage some of the platforms that are we can talk about at this classification level, and some that we can't, as well as some of the other domains that we want to integrate the data to be able to have that ISR, fused ISR. I think when we look at the opportunities that are there through all sorts of intelligence that can be fused together to gain that situational awareness picture, we will be looking at trying to manage that risk until we get to that future leveraging all of those platforms, whether they be the RC-135 version or some of the maintainer of the RQ-4 or some of the other sensors that we have that can put together this picture.
I want to move on to something else you and I have talked about, and that's collaborative combat aircraft. And I've been reading a lot about it. There just happens to be a lot of articles in the last couple of months about it, and you know, we're having more and more discussions about it. And of course, the Air Force's plan to come up with some sort of affordable, rapidly adaptable, sometimes heritable, right, aircraft as a force multiplier. I've seen several of the companies that are and what they're looking at in a contribution. I am worried, though. I'm worried, even though we talk a lot about new acquisition formats and rules of the road. And I also worry a lot about the traditions of going back to the same old place, the same old congested airspace, where innovators go to CYA instead of to innovate. And I've seen a lot of the Air Force come up with a lot of great new ideas for 2 or 3 years, and then they're after the newest, greatest idea, and pretty soon the other one gets dropped off. We've spent a lot of money. And I happen to come from a place that has really great airspace for new innovations. I come from a place where a base that you know well, although you haven't seen it lately, and I can't wait to show it to you because, as you know, part of that base is now a private sky park, where Northrop Grumman and General Atomics and others are testing and remote piloted aircraft, obviously training pilots from all over the world, not just our own. Where now TMCI is outfitting old RQ-4s to help us better test hypersonic missiles, and yet the future of the base is uncertain to me. And I just would love to hear why Grand Forks wouldn't be a better place than the desert, other than the sunshine and the proximity to the ocean, for something like a CCA, where real innovation takes place on both sides of that fence at that base.
Senator, I will tell you, we're not committed to a specific location. What I will tell you is that integral to our force design of the future, we are committed to collaborative combat aircraft. They are defining one of the core elements of what we believe the Air Force needs to do in the future, which is better human-machine teaming, which is better having affordable mass. And the location, I would say we're not committed to the desert at all, and I certainly do appreciate the value of Grand Forks, and having been there as a squadron commander, I certainly look forward to coming back, I believe, next month.
Well, let me just stress, for the people that like the sunshine of the desert and the proximity to the ocean, that a lot of future wars could be fought in the Arctic and in very, very cold places. And I just think we have an awful lot to offer, and you and I are going to talk a lot more about it, and I'm going to stick around for another round if we get the opportunity, Mr. Chair.
Thank you very much, Senator Cramer.